Here's the thing about making unconventional money. You think the hard part is figuring out the system, finding the arbitrage, building the income stream. But there's this other thing nobody warns you about. Your friends turn into financial hall monitors the second you stop playing the game they're playing. I know a guy who started a vending machine business in 2019. 37 machines across 3 counties, clearing $42,000 a year in mostly passive income. He mentioned it at a barbecue. His college buddy, a project manager at a pharma company, literally laughed. Said, "So you're like a vending machine guy now?" Same tone you'd use for, "So you're collecting Beanie Babies?" Another friend asked if he was having money problems. Because in their heads, only desperation drives you to put Snickers machines in laundromats. The project manager makes $85,000 a year, loses 30% to taxes, commutes 90 minutes daily, and his 401k is down 18% because his company plan only offers 6 high-fee mutual funds. But he's got a title on LinkedIn, so he's winning, apparently. Here's the question nobody asks. Why does your financial independence make other people so uncomfortable? I'm going to walk you through the exact psychological mechanism that turns your friends into your biggest financial critics, and why understanding this might be the difference between building real wealth and staying trapped in the same middle-class holding pattern as everyone around you. By the way, I built a free early retirement calculator because most online ones are mathematically wrong. It uses BlackRock and Vanguard logic to expose the weak points in your plan, and I only ask for your email to send the report so I don't store any of your financial data. Link in the description. Think of wealth building like a casino. Most people are sitting at the main table, playing the house game. You know the rules, get the degree, climb the ladder, max the 401k, buy the house in the good school district, retire at 65. Maybe. The house always wins, but you get free drinks and everyone's playing so it feels safe. Now imagine you stand up from that table and start doing something different. Maybe you're building a YouTube channel about investing. Maybe you're running a side business. Maybe you bought a duplex and you're house hacking. Whatever. You're counting cards, you found an edge, and suddenly every person still at the main table starts giving you this look. Not because you're wrong, because you're making them question if they should still be sitting there. I learned this the hard way. I ran a manufacturing business for 22 years. Small operation, boring industry, made components for industrial equipment. I sold it in 2021 for $2.8 million. Not a unicorn exit, not even impressive by Silicon Valley standards, but enough to retire at 51 with a few million in dividend-paying stocks. I mentioned this to some old college friends at a reunion. You'd think I told them I joined a cult. One guy, a VP at a regional bank, asked if I was okay mentally. Another one started explaining to me why selling was probably a mistake, citing zero specific knowledge of my business, my industry, or my personal financial situation. Just reflexive contradiction. The bank VP makes $130,000 a year, lives in a $600,000 house with a $450,000 mortgage. His kid's college fund is underwater because he invested it in target date funds with 1.2% expense ratios. But he's got business cards that say vice president. So clearly I'm the one making poor choices. Here's what's actually happening. There's this concept in behavioral economics called system justification theory. Humans don't just rationalize their own choices. They rationalize the entire system they're operating in. Because if the system is broken, that means they've been making bad choices for years. And that's psychologically unbearable. So when you leave the main table at the casino, you're not just making a personal choice, you're committing system heresy, you're suggesting that maybe the house game isn't the only game, and that threatens everyone still playing it. I saw this play out with a woman I used to know, marketing director, Fortune 500 company, 23 years in. She started a consulting practice on the side in 2023. Nothing crazy. Just advising small businesses on brand positioning. She was making an extra $4,000 a month within 6 months. Mentioned it to her team at work during a happy hour. You know what happened? They started treating her differently. Stopped inviting her to certain meetings. Made jokes about her side hustle. One coworker told HR she was distracted, even though her performance reviews were spotless. She eventually quit the corporate job in 2024. Last I heard, she's clearing $18,000 a month. The coworker who reported her just got laid off in a restructuring, still waiting for that pension to vest. The psychology here is predictable. When someone in your social circle starts winning at a game you're not playing, you have three options. Option one is to admit you might be playing the wrong game, which requires confronting years of sunk cost. Option two is to change games yourself, which requires risk and effort. Option three is to convince yourself and everyone else that the person who left is actually losing, that they're naive, reckless, going through a phase. Option three requires zero change unless you keep playing the house game. So that's what 90% of people choose. But now you might think, okay, so my friends are going to be weird about it. So what? I'll just not tell them. Here's the problem. The social pressure doesn't just come from explicit criticism. It comes from the opportunity cost of not participating in the shared narrative. Let me tell you about a guy I met through my accountant. Worked in pharmaceutical sales. High earner. $220,000 a year. But his entire social circle was other pharma reps. Same income bracket. Same spending habits. Same vacation destinations. He wanted to retire early. Started learning about index fund investing, tax loss harvesting, geo arbitrage. Realized if he moved to a lower cost of living city and invested aggressively, he could retire by 45. But his entire friend group was in the expensive coastal city. The social events, the networking, the kids' playdates. Leaving meant losing that whole identity. So he stayed. He's 52 now, still working, still making good money, still trapped. Because the retirement casino isn't just a financial system, it's a social one. And the house doesn't want you counting cards alone. It wants you to keep playing with everyone else. This is where it gets really interesting. Because the mechanism that makes your friends uncomfortable with your financial independence is the exact same mechanism that keeps most people from building wealth in the first place. It's called preference falsification. The economist Timur Kuran wrote about this. People publicly support whatever the group supports, even if privately they disagree, because the social cost of breaking from the group exceeds the individual benefit of being right. So you get entire social networks locked into suboptimal financial behavior because no one wants to be the first to admit the emperor has no clothes. Here's a concrete example. The average 401k balance for Americans aged 55 to 64 is $196,000. You know what the median is? $87,000. That's not even close to enough for retirement. A couple needs approximately $1.7 million in liquid assets to safely generate $68,000 a year in retirement income using the 4% rule. But nobody talks about this at the office. Everyone just assumes the 401k plus Social Security will work out. Because if you start questioning it out loud, you're the troublemaker. You're the pessimist. You're making people feel bad about their choices. So the preference falsification continues. Everyone pretends they're on track, and the system perpetuates itself. I started a YouTube channel in 2024 explaining this kind of stuff. Boring, right? Reading SEC filings, breaking down dividend yields, explaining tax loss harvesting. But here's the thing. My channel grew to 140,000 subscribers in about 18 months. You know what the most common comment is? Some version of, I wish I had learned this 20 years ago. People are desperate for honest financial information, but they're trapped in social systems that punish honesty. Their friends are all pretending their financial advisor is a genius, even though he's charging 1.5% to put them in underperforming funds. Their family thinks real estate is always a good investment, even though they bought at the peak in 2006 and went underwater. Nobody wants to be the person who says, actually, we're all doing this wrong. Now you're asking yourself, what does this mean for me? Let me give you a case study. Real numbers. I know a couple, ages 47 and 49. Combined household income of $210,000. They had $430,000 saved across retirement accounts, spending about $160,000 a year. On track to work until 67 and retire with maybe $1.2 million if the market cooperates. They wanted to retire at 55, so we ran the numbers. They cut spending to $110,000, moved from a high tax state to Tennessee, sold the 4-bedroom house they didn't need anymore and downsized, started investing 60% of their gross income into low-cost index funds, 70-30 stocks to bonds, 8 years later, at ages 55 and 57, they had $2.1 million. They retired. Their old friend group thinks they're crazy. Living in Tennessee instead of Connecticut. Driving a 7-year-old Camry. Skipping the annual ski trip. But they wake up every day and do whatever they want. Their friends wake up and go to jobs they've hated for 15 years. Who's actually crazy here? The math isn't complicated. If you make $200,000 and spend $160,000, you save $40,000 a year. At a 7% return, that's about $1.9 million in 20 years. If you cut spending to $110,000 and save $90,000 a year, that's $3.6 million in 20 years. Same income, different choices. But making those choices requires ignoring every social signal telling you to keep spending. The nice car, the big house, the private schools, the vacations, all of it is social signaling. And the moment you stop signaling, people get uncomfortable. Here's the comedic part. The same people who think you're irresponsible for leaving your corporate job to build a business will turn around and complain about their job for 2 hours straight. They'll tell you they're burned out, underpaid, underappreciated. Then they'll explain why your decision to leave the system is too risky. The cognitive dissonance is incredible. It's like watching someone complain about being cold while refusing to put on a jacket. Or here's another one. Guy tells me he can't afford to max his 401k. I look at his spending. $700 car payment on a leased BMW. $200 monthly subscription stack he forgot he was paying for. $300 a month on restaurants. $16 cocktails twice a week. But yeah, he can't find $23,000 a year to invest. The math isn't mathing. But admitting that requires admitting he values looking successful more than being successful. And that's uncomfortable. So let me bring this back to the original point. What actually happens when your friends find out you're doing something unconventional to build wealth? Whether it's YouTube, real estate, a business, aggressive saving, whatever, they get weird. They make jokes. They question your judgment. They cite articles they didn't read to explain why you're wrong. Not because they care about your success, because your deviation from the script threatens their justification for staying in the script. And here's the part nobody tells you. That discomfort is actually a signal you're on the right path. Because if your financial strategy makes everyone around you comfortable, you're probably not doing anything different enough to matter. 3 takeaways. 1. Stop explaining your financial decisions to people who aren't living the life you want. Your broke friends' opinions on money are worth exactly what they have. Nothing. Your corporate friends locked into jobs they hate don't get a vote on your entrepreneurial path. Seek counsel from people who have what you want. Ignore everyone else. 2. Understand that social pressure is the biggest hidden cost in your financial life. Bigger than fees, bigger than taxes. The need to keep up appearances, maintain lifestyle, signal status to people you don't even like. That pressure costs you decades of compounding returns. Calculate what impressing your friends is actually costing you. I bet it's your retirement. 3. Build a new peer group. You can't change the system you're in while staying embedded in it. Find people who are also counting cards. Whether that's online communities, local investing groups, entrepreneurial meetups, whatever. Surround yourself with people who won't punish you for winning. Because the retirement casino is rigged. The house always wins. Unless you stop playing the house game, don't work for money. Own the companies that do. And if your friends can't handle that, maybe they weren't really your friends. Maybe they were just the other players at the table, mad that you figured out the game.